so that it doesn't have to waste any time in the port being handled. And that barge is going to transport the generator shell by the Intercoastal Canal to Morgan City, then from there up the Atchafalaya and Red River to Alexandria. When it gets here, as I understand the plan, they're going to this point right here where there's just a pier, a dock, where the barge will dock and be secured, and a very specialized piece of gear, a company called Biggie Transport, I believe out of South Carolina, is going to provide a crawler type device. It's got rubber tires, a large number of rubber tires, and it will actually get onto the barge and underneath the generator shell. It will be then set onto that transport and it will crawl off of there on these rubber tires. Following this path here, this is a gravel road, aggregate road, across the levee onto what's designated as the port road, down here to the intersection with the site road. This is paved city jurisdiction streets, down to this point where what's a private road going over to the Diamond D asphalt and aggregate plant here on the river. They'll transport up to this point here where it joins the rail spur. The rail spur joins in into the Union Pacific Railroad at this point here at a switch, and all the way back to this point here, Hitachi will go in and upgrade or refurbish the line to a new condition that's suitable for transporting this 400-ton generator onto the Union Pacific, from whence it will go up to the Boyce area and the construction site. The actual rail spur itself continues back here to this point, and that section will not be affected at this point. It's not really in immediately useful condition. It would have to be inspected and upgraded as well for any subsequent use. But up to this point here, we'll have essentially a new rail spur along with an aggregate siding, which is able to handle this crawler pulling up alongside the rail car that's going to transport the generator. All this work is going to be done by Hitachi Transport, their subcontractors, and at their cost. They expect it to be done in about a 2-week period from the time they actually get started until they actually move and get things out of here. After that, any repairs that are necessary, we've contracted for that to be their responsibility, both financially and operationally. If there's any damage to the rail spur, their contractor is supposed to restore it. We don't really expect any, but if there is, it's their duty. We're named insured for any third-party liabilities, also any property damage to city property, so that if there's any situation there, we don't have to wait on suing them. If they're belligerent, the insurer is supposed to pay us directly. And at the completion, we're going to execute a donation of any improvements to the property, just to make sure that that's recorded in the record, that that is now property of the city at no cost whatsoever. Any questions?
No got any questions?
Did I understand you correctly when you said all of the costs, ancillary costs involved with this by the city would be incurred by Hitachi?
All the costs associated with the movement, the improvements to the rail spur, and anything that's necessary as part of that, including any cost for repairs, anything on that nature,
Labor costs,
is going to be theirs. All the labor is theirs.
Okay. Got any more questions? Nobody?
We have some technical amendments.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For that. Yes, sir.
All right.
Mr. LaFleur, in consultation with representatives of the port and other organizations, including Hitachi, the initial ordinance was when it was introduced 2 weeks ago, we weren't sure if we had to have an agreement with the port. We after review, we've determined that the only contract that's necessary at this time would be with Hitachi. Hitachi has its own separate agreements, I believe, with Mr. Marzullo and the Port Authority. as far as the movement at the port, taking it on the barge, moving it onto port property, getting it off of port property over to our property. We have a technical amendment to the title, where the title will now read, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a cooperative economic development agreement with Hitachi to provide with respect thereto, to provide to Hitachi a limited right of use in and to the city's existing railroad spur connecting the port with the railroad, accepting transfer of and donations regarding upgrades to the city of Alexandria's existing rail spur at the port of Alexandria, and provide Hitachi will design and construct necessary improvements to the rail spur as part of its consideration for ancillary matters and contracts related thereto, and specifically the contract for temporary Hitachi management and use of the rail spur through said project, and to authorize the mayor to negotiate these contracts and seek terms favorable to the city of Alexandria that is discretion are necessary, and further to authorize any permits and to provide for any related authorizations and provisions and agreements related thereto. We further have amended the body, Mr. Smith, to set out the same matters as we just set out in the title regarding Hitachi, what we will be delivering to Hitachi as far as the agreement, a limited right of use and into the existing railroad spur connecting the port with the main railroad line. Again, providing Hitachi will design and construct all necessary improvements to the rail spur as part of its consideration, and to contract for Hitachi's management and use of the rail spur through said project, and to authorize the mayor to negotiate the contract under those terms favorable to the city under such terms and conditions as he believes are necessary. It will also authorize the mayor to grant any permits necessary on the current Alexandria Code of Ordinances, including permits from planning and from his own office, and from any other city division that relates to the cooperative endeavor under the mayor's discretion, which he normally would exercise. It will also authorize the mayor to accept the eventual transfer of the donation from Hitachi regarding upgrades to the city's existing rail spur at the port, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto, and we would suggest that the amendments be incorporated and adopted as the ordinance.
Can I ask a question before we do that?
I'm
Sure.
moving for discussion.
Second.
Okay.
Second. Incorporated in this document is the fact that there could be any length of time, statutory length of time, should there be any problems, damages that may not manifest itself for X number of months or years that would be covered by in an event that this should occur because of the magnitude of the project?
That, I should have added, the term of the contract is through September 30th, or if by mutual agreement in writing, we can extend beyond that for the work. Any liability that arises would come in upon our discovery, and we now have, I think, a 5-year prescriptive period, 3 or 5 year prescriptive period for construction work, preemptive period, where if we discover something beyond that period, it's too late to file suit. But that's the same whether we had an independent contractor do work on our own, on our own account.
And Mr. Silver, Ms. Lawson at Public Works and Mr. Branch at Planning Department anticipate, and they can address these issues, one or both of them may be here. They're going to actually review the site next week and document what's out there at the present time, locate the utility lines, the water lines, the gas lines. Mr. LaFleur's asked for that information. And then Mr. Branch and Ms. Lawson's departments will be able to monitor the road for a period of time, because the staff is concerned about, what happens through the winter once you do this. We hope there's nothing acute that happens during the move, but the staff will have to monitor this for a period of time to make sure that there's nothing related to the transfers.
And if I can just add this, the trailer, the crawler that's going to be transporting the piece of equipment, from what I've been told and what I understand, consists of rubber tires and about 20 axles. And because of the movement, the slow movement of the crawler, along with that number of axles and tires, the weight is evenly distributed such that it's not going to be any greater than an 18-wheeler driving down the road. So we really don't anticipate that there should be any damage from the actual movement of the vehicle. Now, if there were an accident and the equipment was dropped or something like that, then of course there would be damage. We're also going to go out and videotape and survey the road and the area around the road so that when we inspect it after the move and continue to inspect it for a period of time, we'll have something to document and to compare it to.
Okay. Any other questions?
There's a motion on
What,
the
what,
amendment.
does anything in this agreement deal with the port's responsibility? Yeah, that's,
No, and Mr. Lawson, we had considered at one point entering into an IGA with the port, but as it turns out, when we looked into the arrangement more closely, the relationship of the parties is such that we're not required to contract directly with the port on this deal. The port is going to perform their portion of the work. They'll be actually facilitating the docking of the barge and the movement on the port side. And then we contracted directly with Hitachi to get it to the rail, and once it's on the rail.
We wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be any question of any liability. If there were a problem, it's either us, the city, or Hitachi. And with respect to the city, they've indemnified us, so it goes back to them anyway. So we want to keep that as a simple relationship as possible.
Never thought we necessarily need the port entity when we initially drafted the title. That's why I discussed with you to ensure we could if need be.
Yes, sir. Okay, I need a motion on the amendment. This will take for,
I move so we can discuss. It's already a motion.
Move second.
so who,
I moved, and I think
I
Roosevelt
second.
second already.
I second.
okay, I need, have y'all finished with the discussion? Okay. So,
Just need to adopt the amendment.
okay, we'll just propose this to full council, and you'll be here, and we'll adopt this with the original.
Sure, but you should adopt, you can adopt it in committee, and then it just comes before the full
Okay,
council
move,
as
all
amended.
right, we moving second?
I so move.
All right,
Second.
okay.
Just ask, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
That's fine.
Two of them. I don't know why
Anything else on this one?
That's it.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
We'll be working with with Mr. LaFleur and with other attorneys, and we'll let y'all know if anything does, that is of concern to us. We have the final contract. I think y'all seen it.
Thank you, Steve.
Next.
Okay, go back to one, I think we heard, consider final adoption of ordinance authorizing the mayor and government agreement with the 9th District Court and providing transportation to the offenders through the Rapid Drug Court. Book item number 31st. I need a motion.
Second.
Moving second. Adoption. Anybody had any discussion on that one? Okay, we go to 2. Consider final adoption order addressing section 15-128 to the Alexandria City Code related to appropriate dress for person in certain public places, to prohibit public exposure in certain attire, to provide for fines and civil penalties. I need a motion and second.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
Mr. Smith, you had one amendment that you asked us to put in the current body of the ordinance. No change to the title, but the amendment would be to grant in the discretion of the judge, a warning to the parent and juvenile, in addition to the ability of the judge to impose the civil penalties of either a fine or community service. You had asked us to include that as a technical amendment.
It's already in motion. I just moved that the judge could use the discretion when if someone first offender get called for him or his parent, that he didn't under his discretion, that he didn't have to levy a fine if he wanted him to do something else, counsel them, and then that'd be the first offense. If it be any, if somebody give them trouble or something like that, we give them $25 on, we just figured that the first offense would be under discretion of the judge. And I like to say this, that we have, as possible. So if you look, they had me on Fox News this afternoon on National. I was here in the office, but we were talking about the issue, and I've been getting calls from all over from the United States, and they've been calling and saying how they appreciate, you know, what we're doing. So that's what we leading to. And we hope that the parents and the people will work with us with this, and I think everything will be fine. So we had a motion and a second, refer this to our council.
As amended.
As amended.
Also move. He second? No, nothing.
I seconded. I seconded.
All right, we'll take it to full council. What else we have? Number 4.
Number 4.
Number 4 is to consider final adoption of an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional services agreement with Christina Wembley for law clerk. And Ms. Wembley is here with us today. Ms. Wembley, if you'd stand up. She's a 2007 graduate of Southern University Law School and a 2003 graduate of Dillard University with a Bachelor of Arts degree in English. She graduated from Ash in 1999. She's a home girl. She's homegrown. Her dad is the infamous Henry Wembley of the animal shelter, and her mother is a principal at Acadian School here in Alexandria. So we're happy to have her aboard. Thank you, Christine.
I'd like to move. I also like to say we have a very, very talented young lady that's joining us.
Second.
Okay, move we for this to the full council. Okay, number 5, to hear from the administration concerning enforcement of the liberal law.
Councilman Smith, to the administration, if I can just lead into discussion, I just want to thank the administration and the Public Works Department for what they've done and to combat problems that we face in the city and the public works area in this matter. Over the last few months, I've noticed in our city more infiltration of trash, litter on our major thoroughfares. And this leads to where we want our citizens of our great city to take pride in our city, pride in our community, looking at economic development, looking at our neighborhoods. The neighborhood groups work wholeheartedly from month to month in their meetings to look at problems that we have in our city. And one of the problems that they have taken upon themselves is to work on trash and litter cleanup. But one of the things that we've seen and I've seen is that a week later, the situation is back to what it was and where it was. And I've asked the administration to come forward. Me, the chief, Ms. Lawson, and the administration have had several meetings on this matter because if you look around you, the matter is more serious than what we think it is. And it goes back to not only just the city doing its part, but the people, our citizens, must also do their part. And at this time, if we could hear from the administration on their presentation of what we can also do to help enforce this problem.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm going to speak on behalf of Public Works. I did give you, hopefully everyone has received a copy of it, kind of the breakdown of code enforcement as far as employees are concerned and their roles and their responsibilities. Also, we have some various paragraphs talking about illegal dumping as well as dumpsters, litter ordinance as they relate to our code of ordinances. Over the last year, if you look at the last paragraph, it does indicate that we've actually issued 131 warning citations. We've issued 12 fines regarding illegal dumping, littering, and overflowing of dumpsters, and over 50 private lots have actually been cleaned up throughout our city by the Public Works Department, more in particular, Code Enforcement Department. I'm not sure if that kind of answered your question, but we're very aggressive in taking care of some of the litter problems because of the circumstances surrounding the personnel that we have. We do have our code enforcement officers out there looking at various violations that we reported, and we have our crews going to try to clean it up if in fact that's the case during that time period. We also send some of them through the court system. Some are fined. First fine fee is $25. We do have some folders here if you want to look through some of the sample violations that we've had throughout the community. That they range from people cutting grass and jumping over the grass into the right-of-way, to overflowing dumpsters, to litter on private property, on just in general terms. And so it varies from community to community, but we are looking at stepping it up some during the winter months on the litter violations. Right now, we are taking a very active role in grass cutting.
One of the things I've seen also in major thoroughfares is that the overflow of dumpsters, the infiltration of trash overflowing, and it stays there 2 or 3 days. As we look at economic development, in the first place that you come into a lot of these areas, which is main gateways on major thoroughfares, you see the overflow of trash dumpsters, where you see all these different crates that's abound that may even cause some health hazards. What can be done to really beef up the enforcement in those particular areas?
That's private.
Did you just say private?
Property, what happens if you have an ordinance in place that requires, if in fact we don't provide services to commercial vendors, those services they're required.
they see someone litter, different things like that. And I want to let Mr. Johnson know that Chuck is out today, and I won't get into it, but it's for personal reasons. He's definitely has a good excuse for not being here. He has the ordinance finished, and indeed it was finished at the last council meeting in a timely fashion. The administration pulled it in my office so that I could meet with Sandra Bright and Angelina Isles. I met with them today and 2 deputies for a length of time, and we are meeting again on September the 4th to finalize some things. And Trey can speak to this if it becomes necessary. There's a state law that came out that has now increased court costs citywide that applies to all of our city courts and everything. We have to take that into consideration now. We're not wanting to punish people monetarily beyond their ability. We want to push this to have people picking up trash. If they're a litter bug, we think it's appropriate to have to pick up trash. So we're figuring out ways to be thinking a little bit outside of the box. And then when that's finished, we believe that by next meeting, since we're meeting the 4th, we can come together with a plan that tweaks a little bit of what Chuck has already done for you and allows us to be able to work with the parish and indeed the sheriff's office, and that's where we'd like to be. We'd like to have magistrates or special masters in the city court so that we're not overburdening our city judge, and we can have local lawyers either fit that or even citizens, depending, so that we can hold court more often and allow litter court to push things through in a quicker fashion. There are a lot of new ways we can look at this, and that's what we're working on. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, and I can elaborate a little bit. I mentioned to Mr. Lawson on Friday when we became aware of a new act in the legislature that was intending to raise monies for the crime labs, and the legislature on all felonies has imposed a significant additional court cost on felonies, which we do not deal with in our Alexandria City Court, which can be up to $1,000 if they have to run tests in drug cases, etc. But when the legislature wrote the act, they also applied it to any misdemeanor. And apparently it's in any misdemeanor in any court of any jurisdiction. And that is going to add a $100, and it was an article in the paper today. Yeah. Judge Starling had a comment on it, but none of the judges and the district attorneys really can avoid the fact that the legislature has raised this. It's going to raise on any misdemeanor, which would be traffic tickets in the city of Alexandria, the fine or the court costs by additional $100. The fine itself is not that high.
So, Trey, if you had a $25 fine, what would be the court costs associated with that?
With all the other taxed costs now, on any misdemeanor, any traffic ticket, litter, you're going to pay at least $250 to $260 to Marshall Byrd. And then Marshall Byrd, the city does not keep this money. All that Marshall Byrd can retain is the actual fine, which I think is in many cases $50, but the rest of the money has to be dispersed. Marshall Byrd will have to disperse, for instance, at least $100 of the collected monies to the Northwest Crime Lab. It's not coming to the city. But when constituents begin paying these fines, the fines are due today, by the way. It's fines in effect after August the 15th. Now, the legislature says they didn't really mean to do it that way, but the legislature's not going to meet for a while. So I think in the meantime, there are going to be a lot of people calling y'all up about these fines. It's not Marshall Byrd, it's not the city council, it's not the judge. The Louisiana legislature did it, and they'll probably try to correct it to where it's really supposed to apply to felonies and Title 14 misdemeanors under the state code. But for right now, our people are going to have to do it. It's not going to add, even though the city court will be collecting more money, and it could be considerable. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in the Alexandria City Court, but we will not be retaining any of that money, and I think that y'all need to know that. We are charged, our court is charged, and Marshall Byrd, to remit all of that extra money to the Northwest Crime Lab. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Lawson, you all get together and Mayor said he met with Ms. Bryce, and whenever y'all get that together and bring it back, and you know, we look at it, we can adopt it.
I would have introduced it today just to have it introduced, and we could amend whatever by next meeting. But since Chuck wasn't here, I just said we'd hold it till next meeting.
That's fine, because
that'll be the 11th.
She made contact with me. I didn't know I didn't hear it today, and that's what I was.
And Charles, I had promised them, like you, that we would listen to them first. You know, we can't tell them we're going to do it exactly how the parish is going to do it, but I told them that we would do that, and so I want to keep that obligation.
Okay. Thank you. I got,
And I just want to thank the administration and the efforts of everyone working together on this project. And at some point, you know, I hope the administration and the city can also do educational campaign.
That'll be part of it.
And all our efforts. Again, thank y'all so much.
I just want to toot the horn of Sandra Washington, our new code enforcement supervisor. She has 3 code enforcement officers, and they covered the entire city. And I think they do a great job with the staff and the means that they have available to them. And Sandra went to a lot of trouble today to put together some information for this presentation. And she'll be happy to show you. She goes out and takes pictures. She issues warning citations. She has all of that information available for you if you have time to talk to her about it or look through it with her. She'll be happy to do that.
you know, she's good. Mr. Travis needs some more help. I got to.
I'd like to throw something in there to the administration. Y'all do. I would support 2 more people at least in code enforcement. Because Sandra's people, they do work and they get the job done. But she could stand some more help out there too.
Right now, we have 8 positions budgeted for the department, budgeted. We only have 6 filled, so we're missing like 25% of our budget. So if we get those 2 that are budgeted but not filled, then that would help us a lot. We'd be pretty good.
That's why he said he was supporting.
We're supporting it.
The positions are
We support the same thing.
That's
a whole other meeting to talk about filling positions.
I'm on somebody else's time. Lisa got it.
I have 2 ordinances I'd like to introduce tonight. One of them is to consider an adoption of an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Arts Council to organize, encourage, and assist the development of arts and serve as an overall supporting agency to local arts groups and organizations that provide quality arts and cultural programs within the city of Alexandria. This is a continuation we've done every year. And the last one is to consider an ordinance to authorize the mayor to enter into a written cooperative endeavor agreement with the Alexandria Historical and Genealogical Library and Museum to preserve and protect things historical and genealogical for the enlightenment and education of the citizens of Alexandria.
Move.
Second.
That's a renewal too, isn't it? Is that a renewal?
Yes.
Renewal it is.
He just gave them to me. Is that it? We have one additional matter to ask legal to consider. We have a technical amendment on the ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Leon Rudisil doing Goodness Says Central Louisiana Hot Rod Reunion regarding an event September 1st, 2007. When we introduced the matter 2 weeks ago, Mr. Leon Rudisil came, and I think he's going to be here this evening. We were not sure if we needed to also enter into an agreement with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They have been working with Mr. Rudisil, but we determined, the legal department determined there is no necessity for a separate agreement with the Convention Bureau. So we would ask that the title and the enabling ordinance be amended in that respect, just to enter into the cooperative endeavor agreement with Leon Rudisil doing Business as Central Louisiana Hot Rod Reunion.
Which one is that?
It's already has an item number tonight, and it's
I
on
know
the
it's a final
adoption.
adoption.
What's the number? Number 26.
That's a reminder when we get to that
I will, but I just wanted to explain that now. I don't think there's any questions, and we've talked to all the department heads that are affected.
Okay, thank you. To move on, I hope everybody realized that we didn't tack in that money onto those fines. I hope they get that out. You know, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna close out, but if you're not down there every day, that legislation, you don't know what they're gonna pass. Do you know that they started off amended that they asking everybody to publish their income tax, their wife income tax, and every income they had in Baton Rouge, and when they finish it, they want to take, they sent it down to all the councilmen, the mayor, and everybody else. That means you'd have to expose everything that you make. If you was rich or you was poor, everybody would know all of your business. And I'll tell you, and the LMA had to fight like the devil to get that defeat, and you know it's coming back again. Good. And they're gonna have to show how much money you have. I'll move your adjournment.
Just take time.
First item on the agenda is to hear a presentation concerning the amateur boxing program for the Martin Center Annex.
Mr. Marshall, we have Carrie Daigle here, and are you ready to present? I think the mayor ran out on us. Did you want to talk about the boxing?
I just wanted to, let me introduce Kerry. He's right out front. He said he was falling asleep during the meeting, so I'm kidding.
That's good.
Gentlemen, when Mr. Daigle comes back, I think the cameras are down, so some of the drama is lost.
They're up again.
Oh, they're up? Okay. I'll wait till he comes back. Is he gone?
Yes, sir.
This gentleman is Kerry Daigle, whom several of you probably know. Kerry does a lot with boxing in our general area in the region, and particularly with some of the casinos, different things. He's had some big fights. He knows some of the big players, Angelo Dundee and a whole bunch of others. I have a picture of Kerry in my office with Oscar De La Hoya, whom I'm sure some of you may know. Kerry had been talking to me about different boxing matters since that has become kind of an interest in our region. It seems that there is some definite interest in fights of a different nature, both mixed martial arts and different things. We also got into this discussion about a gym. We were given two proposals so far about gyms, both of which involved considerable city expense, both to get them started and then as a matter of continued operations. I wanted to make sure that we exhausted any avenues to see if there were folks that had already run gyms before and that didn't involve the city funding salaries and operations. I didn't think there was much of an issue with us providing a facility. I think Mr. Hobbs has always thought the Martin Center had some available area and would be appropriate. But I wanted to make sure that we really exhausted looking into that, because you get concerned about a long-term project at the amount of money that was requested in the proposals we received thus far. I talked to Mr. Daigle, whom I've only known since, I guess, around this time last year, a little later, maybe actually November or so I met him. He's written books. He's been involved in this industry for a long time. He brought with him Bo Williford, who's done a lot with gyms, and so I asked them to come tonight. As I told you, Mr. Marshall, I'd have them here, and so they're here, and I'll turn it over to them. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor, for having us. And first of all, I want you to know I have been involved in professional boxing and amateur boxing for 37 years. I'm 54 years old. That is not my livelihood. I have not made a living in professional and amateur boxing. I own several other businesses, and I primarily do that because I feel that it's an opportunity to help many at-risk people that are out there on the streets that could utilize some help. One thing about professional and amateur boxing is that these athletes cannot maybe not tall enough to compete in basketball, or maybe not big enough to compete in football. or maybe can't compete in some of the other sports for different reasons. It gives an opportunity to someone that may be 106 pounds, 112 pounds, 115 pounds, that has a tremendous amount of athletic ability, but doesn't have the financial ability to maybe go to school and get the college education and move on to some of the rewards that come with being in the professional ranks. And I'm not here to deliver a speech where we're asking you to fund a program where I will be getting a salary. I'm only here to introduce what I think is the most qualified person for a gymnasium here in the Alexandria area. And I've got this letter I want to read to you. It's from a very successful law firm in the city of Lafayette, Glenn Armator Law Agency, that wrote this letter. And this is an introduction to Mr. Bo Williford, who's sitting in the audience, and you get a chance to meet in a minute. He says, I have known Bo Williford for approximately 25 years, during which time I have observed that he has worked well with at-risk youth in the context of training them for amateur boxing. Because of Bo's extensive professional boxing background, he has managed 7 world champions and is well known in boxing circles by the upper echelon members, promoters, managers, and other participants of that sport. He has been able to draw at-risk youth into his program on a steady basis, and once training them, has done immeasurable good in setting down guidelines and performance standards for them, which include getting back to school, getting good grades, productive citizenship, and appropriate behavior. In the words of the great boxing trainer Angelo Dundee, Bo is called a one-man chamber of commerce for the Lafayette community. I am personally aware of his having saved many hundreds of young men and women from a life of crime through his work at the Ragin' Cajun Amateur Boxing Club in Lafayette, Louisiana. Bo currently runs a world-class gym at which we would be more than happy for all of you to visit at our expense, at which train a large number of young people who might otherwise be engaged in less, and I like what he has here, appetizing behavior. Over the course of time, he has turned these young people into tremendously productive citizens and adults that we can all be proud of. Because of that background and his lofty achievements over the last 25 years, I believe that consideration should be given to the City of Alexandria and its Community Services Department to allow Coach Williford to advise you and or be called upon to implement an amateur boxing program for the City of Alexandria. It is my considerate and well-founded opinion that Coach Bo Williford presents the best credentials for serving at-risk youth through boxing programs of any human being currently residing in the state of Louisiana. What I've seen Bo Williford do with a lot of young men is giving them the acknowledgement that they may not get in other arenas in their life, where they can get in the print media, they can get in electronic media, and so forth. And I understand the impact that that can have on someone's life. I personally grew up in a welfare family. I had my grandparents who were illiterate. They could not speak English. Je ne parle français, could only speak French. They have no education. They could not read. They could not write. But they instilled in me the power of being able to hang around the right people and seek out the right mentors. And that's what I feel what Bo Williford really is. I know I sought out and reached out for certain mentors in my life. And I'm not saying this in a braggadocious way. I definitely don't want to sound facetious, but at the age of 40, I've got a high school education, and I'm willing to tell you I didn't do that well in high school. But at the age of 40, I never really had to work again. Now, am I saying that to be braggadocious? No, I'm not. But I really feel that if you have the right mentors in your life, a lot of great things can happen to you. And I would like to let you know that I feel that we can bring this type of gymnasium to you. You have offers now that are being presented to you. We can do one that we feel can be self-sufficient. because we have the experience to do so. So we would like to be able to present that to you and fill out the sponsorship request and have the opportunity before you make a decision to let Mr. Williford offer you his services. And I will send you a DVD that we have from recommendations for Mr. Williford. I'll give you some of the names. Deidre Gogarty, the former undisputed featherweight champion of the world, female. The first female to bring big-time boxing to national TV and pay-per-view. You may have heard of Larry Holmes, who's on the DVD, requesting that we help Bo Williford with the gym in Lafayette. Maybe you've heard of Al Bernstein from Showtime, the commentator. Angelo Dundee, I know you've heard of him. Teddy Atlas, the ESPN commentator, and our commentator friend Jim Lampley from HBO. We'll send you that DVD to show you that we do have the right person in the room should you have an interest in having that type of gymnasium here that has the experience to do it and the ability to do it, and that we can bring some of the right people into this arena and into this area to create some energy and some enthusiasm and some I think, some great things that we can bring into Alexandria like we did into the city of Lafayette. And Bo, I'd just like you to come up and introduce yourself, please. Mr. Bo Williford.
Thank you, Kerry. I wish some of these guys were here to speak for me today, that I didn't have to speak, but we started a gym in 1982 in Lafayette. The criteria was no less than a B in conduct, no less than a C in your grades. If you couldn't do that, you couldn't box. Kids that didn't want to do it, didn't do it. Kids that wanted to do better in their life brought their grades up, they brought their conduct up, and went after the kids that didn't want to do it. And when they saw their pictures in the paper, that the kids that had worked hard, the kids that didn't want to do it, suddenly were back in the gym. You know, they're on TV, they're in the newspaper, getting recognition. And anyhow, we ran the gym for up until 2001, and in 2001 it burned down. Place down the hall from us, caught on fire, it spread, and it destroyed everything we had. We had absolutely nothing. I mean, and I was almost out of money. And I thought, well, it's time to shut it down, I guess. And the kids started coming to my house, and fortunately I have a triple wide driveway, and the next thing you know, and good neighbors. We were working out in my driveway and winning state Golden Gloves titles, and Glenn Armentor and some other local businessmen got together, and we raised some money to reopen the gym. The gym is now totally self-sufficient. We don't ask anybody for any money. We run it on our own. Nothing has changed as far as our criteria for attending the gym. If you can't keep your grades up, you can't come. One of our champions, or one of our national champions, is from here in Alexandria. I'm sure you're all familiar with him. Heath Nichols, who won the national championship boxing out of our gym in 2001. Driving 90 miles a day back and forth, or actually 180 miles a day, I guess, back and forth to Lafayette to train. And we went to Kansas City, and he won the national championship. When I first moved to Louisiana, I got out of college and came down here, Alexandria had a pretty strong boxing team, but shortly after I got here, I'm not sure what happened, but it kind of disappeared. And I remember John Stutes, who was in the Golden Gloves Hall of Fame, speaking of Alexandria and complaining about having to come here because all those tough kids up here that you had to fight. And so obviously Alexandria has a lot of talent and probably a need for this. And I will be glad to help any way I can. If there's anything I can do in assistance to the council or the mayor, I'm open. And if you need to ask me any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Your proposal, what is your proposal?
Well, we haven't filled out a proposal yet. I haven't even seen the proposal sheet, but it would be as reasonable as humanly possible.
What I asked the chairman is, fill out the proposal, then come back at the next, council meeting to the committee?
Oh, I'd be more than happy to.
And then we could get a chance to look at your proposal?
Right.
Too, because we're interested, we haven't closed the doors on any proposal.
But I'd be more than happy to fill out the proposal and come back and meet with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say, because I myself, I realize the impact that boxing can have in this community. And I'm wholeheartedly for it, and thank the president of the council is too, and this is his district that we want to put the gym in. So, like you said, we're not closing the door or nothing, so bring the proposal and let's see what we got.
Be happy to. Thank you.
Mr. Lawson?
Again, commend you on what you've done. I'm familiar with the Lafayette program. Now I've had a chance to go to Glen Armington's house, so he's exceptionally successful. And hopefully we find another one of those philanthropic folks within our community to step up to the plate like he did. But whereas I do think we need to give this some serious consideration, I like the fact that you left the participation level at obtainable goals, meaning a C average and a B in behavior. I think that's great, but I also want to reiterate that I think we need to look at our entire recreation program, inclusive of what these guys are suggesting, because as we look at what we have to offer, I think that's one area that we've been lacking in for quite some time, in many years, and I know that the mayor is in line to beef up areas in that arena, but we've got to make sure that we have something accessible for these young people, particularly during the summertime and even during school time with tutorial programs that were very successful in the past. Maybe we can join venture with the school board on.
What I'm thinking is, committee we got, we should get, see some updates. Yeah. Some updates. Where it is on, on what, alluding to what, Mr. Lawson is saying also.
Yeah.
We can invite them next
Maybe
week.
we can, next council meeting, maybe we can hear from the ARAP and the whole bag, and we get a little bit more time to answer on it.
We can have them prepare a report and have Lisa Harris give a report from ARAP.
Yeah. So that way we'll know where we're going.
I know, we had another guy, we had, these guys here with their report. Myself, I would like to take a look, if what we talking about doing, where you talking about out there is that big enough, the facility large enough, we're gonna get into it, you ask them to bring, they got different programs, but can these programs, fit out there with the Martin Center and that goes back far? I'm saying I would like to, if the administration will bring something, bring it wholehearted. What we're going to use? We're going to use the gym, the riverfront, or something else, wherever we're going to go. If we're going to get into, this type of, you're going to need, I think you're going to need some space. To do it right. You don't want to just get into something and turn it over overnight.
Yes, and that's why I reached out to Kerry, because Bo and Kit, they have experience in the other groups were sort of first-time proposers. And again, a large portion of the operational aspect, if you ask for $150,000, let's say, and 80% of it is going to operations and salaries, and only 20% of it is going to the actual program, that fraction was something that concerned the staff, and Lisa and I talked, and so we just reached out and looked around. I talked to Kerry because of my relationship with him at this point, just in having gotten to know him since November. So seeing the fights that they brought in the local area, we all know Heath Nichols. And so once I talked to him and presented that to him, they said, well, no, we think you can do this and have it be self-sustaining from an operational standpoint immediately, but we would probably need help in a facility and some initial equipment. Well, that's not the expense part, and of course, we've already made the investment there. The public's already made the investment in our facilities. But I understand your concern, Mr. Smith, and we wouldn't bring it unless it was wholehearted, and that's why I brought these guys here, because we think the better place to spend the money is globally looking at everything. If we can avoid $100,000 a year for someone to run a program, that's a lot of money to recoup back if these guys don't need $100,000 a year in salaries. And that's why we are talking to them.
And also, I want to add, one of those proposals was actually not even for use of our facility. One of the groups had their own facility, and they wanted to go there and ask that we would provide assistance in the utilities and that. So, I'm more than willing to let you all see those proposals, and we'll get with him to get the paperwork for his.
Yeah, if you can, let's kind of like look at all of them before, that way we can make a more informed decision. If we could see the whole package.
I'm hearing today they're certainly in the right church and almost on the right pew, and bring Layla Ali, I think that'll put you on the right pew.
Okay, item number 2. We got, let's kind of move along here. Item number 2 is here from the administration concerning the statistical update of crimes committed in central Louisiana, primarily in Alexandria, violent crimes and drugs in the last 3 years.
If you will, Mr. Chair, this was kind of a spur of the moment. I didn't want to put the chief on the spot. This was a concern raised in a meeting that I had. It was a concern that I've raised in several other meetings. I don't want to rush his presentation because I think it's very serious. I think it's something that has a lot of positives in it, but several concerns, if you will. I would ask that we devote an hour to this and let him come and make a full presentation, because anyone that reads the paper, when I put item number 3 on there to talk about the crystal meth and the pills, you can see people, 3 and 4 and 5 people in our community dying as a result of these prescription drugs. And I think it's just something we need to look at and try to put some extra monies behind these illegal drugs that are throughout all the communities. But it's up to, I mean, I don't know if he can do it.
We don't have real time is becoming our enemy now. If we come back on next council meeting
and 5.
2, 3, and 5.
Maybe 6.
No, 2 or 3. Now I want to hear from 5, 4, 5. It ain't gonna take that long.
4 and 5.
Okay, we put 2, 3, and 5 with that, yeah, okay.
2, 3, and 5,
yeah, okay. We do that. Okay. Ms. Lawson.
Got an entourage, sir.
I see.
Bit too long.
Item number 4 is to hear an update from the administration concerning the upkeep of rabbit runs. And number 1, I guess I need to just let folks know what rabbit runs are. What these are they're drainage boxes that's in the streets along Henson Street, Monroe Street, Elliott Street, and several other streets, 11 in my district, but it's not necessarily all in District 1. It's some in District 5, 4 also in District 2. But the thing of it is that they cause a lot of street flooding when we have heavy rains. And that's where I'm at.
Let's start off, and then I'm going to turn it over to some of the staff from the street department. Again, I've provided some information to you as to where the rabbit runs are located. Talks about the streets, their location. Then there's a second component of information that has been made available to you, talking about some of the conditions and where we made repairs and whether repairs are necessary. Just your information, if some of y'all aren't familiar with what you just expound on very eloquently, There are pictures in your packet that show some of the rabbit runs that are in disrepair. Some of them in nature, some of them are wood and traditional use of creosote. And of course, as you are aware, creosote is no longer an item that's allowed or used, has been banned. But as far as maintenance, it kind of goes back to, we were just talking about the litter, and if you look at some of those pictures, you have a lot of people that are walking in those areas in your particular district, and instead of taking their waste and putting it in containers, a lot of times they drop, and of course they clog up the system. Typically what we'll try to do, we have a flusher truck, and we'll go in and try to flush them out, keep them clean as good as we can. Our system is currently in the shop. It has been for 3 times this year. I'm going to kind of turn things over to the superintendent and supervisor. They can kind of tell you what we're doing right now to maintain them. But some of them, as you can see from the pictures, are in disrepair. We're kind of stretched thin right now with some of the work we're doing with the grass and also maintaining additional properties such as the meetings as we weren't doing, say, this time last year. So I'll turn it over to his supervisor / superintendent, whichever one you want to go first, and kind of expound on what we're doing to keep those rabbit runs in conditions where they won't cause some flooding issues, sir.
Currently, what we have, major problem is equipment. But you'll notice where you have foot traffic, a lot of foot traffic, we start like in the summertime, the brochure that you have, with the foot traffic, certainly you're going to have an awful lot of litter. We can actually run a sweeper in certain areas every day, as Mr. Roosevelt spoke earlier. You can pick it up today and tomorrow just like you've never been there. Currently, one of our biggest problems is personnel, and if we would have more sweepers. We're down with sweepers. We had more sweepers, you know, we could sweep more regular, which would help it. But what happens with your drains right now, like I say, actually the official is a pumper truck, which we've been asking for several years to get one. We been shut down. What we do, we actually could run this truck every day. But in the fall, we also have problems with heavy leaves, especially in your garden district where you have a lot of trees and stuff like that. We basically will run that truck every day. Also, we do have grass growing, and I'm gonna ask that we get some help from engineers. Some of these drains from overlays or streets, closing them up, boards are right now. What we do have, we come in as we get complaints and we see we run very short personnel. We're going to replace the boards, but we have maybe 1 and 2 overlays. We have a major problem on the corner of our hill in Chester, which we've been having drainage pipe problems underground for quite a while. You're seeing some of those pictures, some of them are decayed. We have metal in places where the concrete have failed. And it just needs to be reconstructed in some areas. But more or less, our biggest problem is not having enough personnel, and with ragged equipment, we do what we can do when we can do it. But like I say, in areas that you have a lot of foot traffic, especially when school is out, we do have some pictures there. We have lawn services that blow stuff out in the street. Again, Ms. Washington and code enforcement have been doing an outstanding job in helping us righten up. In the past, we haven't had any help, but they have been doing a good job in working on that. But we actually need help from the council and the administration that we need some equipment. The truck we have been in the shop, or is in the shop currently right now. So, I mean, we're in trouble if we couldn't have a hard rain right now.
Let me ask this question. Do we just have that one truck that we use?
One truck in public works. Wastewater has one, but they have to, they truck has to maintain with the seal. We don't have one.
On the personnel side of this matter, are we short of personnel? And that's,
yes, sir, very short, very short.
How many individuals are we down?
With this street department, and you have to make note that we have multiple tasks. Right now, we probably down about 12 people.
Out of a total of how many?
With a total of 32. And it's rough. We spread it in right now. because of the, you see that, we have grass. If you notice, 3 weeks ago, the rain. Also, we need to know that we contract, we also take care of making our driving grass. So we have to, we're all Peter to pay for it.
Are these positions open and advertised?
Yes, they've been sent up. I think it's at EO1, EO2, and EO3. I have 2 that's special assigned, and I have a GMW that's vacant. But the problem is like Wayne says, is the street department is running thin. We're cutting grass. You'll see us doing mosquitoes 7 days a week to stay on top of this, plus the rabbit runs. And what the public really doesn't understand is when you have a hard downpour, you have to give that time for that water to drain away, period. And when you're overlaying, I don't want to get into an overlay problem, but every time you overlay, instead of re-milling the asphalt and taking it down and regrading it, you're building to where the water gets restricted. And then you have the high curves or the edges, and then you get your complaints about your driveway problem, people backing up, scraping their bumpers. I know it's expensive to re-mill, but in the long run, it'd be more cost effective. You won't have near the complaints. Well, they need equipment. We do the best they can do with what they have.
Well, with the coming of more and more subdivisions online, like we talked yesterday, we gotta do what we gotta do, and I'm asking the administration to possibly look at, if we have to hire additional people, we have to hire them. And let's get the equipment to do the job. And I'm mad, Mayor, you probably didn't realize that there was that big of a shortage, and the equipment was,
No, sir, that's incorrect. I realize that we talk about it at every staff meeting, but what you need to understand and the people need to understand is that's not the administration that's causing that shortage. This is a system under which we operate within civil service that is a separate aspect of the city, as you gentlemen know. So the 12 we're short is not something the administration, this isn't 12 new positions we need. We need to fill the 12 that we've had outstanding requests, and this is citywide, up to a quarter in each division of people. This is a common problem. It's been a problem since before I got into office. I knew this was a big issue for the city. We made some great strides early on, and I think we're creeping back into an issue that needs to be addressed fairly forcefully. But the administration is doing what it can there. It's part of a civil service fix that we need.
Are there any, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. I'll support you on that issue. And what I think my colleagues feel the same way, because we cannot let the city fall apart, especially the older sections of town. And we can't let that go. So we have to do what we have to do for civil service.
Well, let me ask this. While we're in this crunch and understaffed and through no fault of our own, this system, which we've all argued about a lot, but are there any contractors that we could approach in doing some of this type of work for us?
I'd like to add something, because I found out this afternoon that Dabney Correctional Facility in about 3 weeks will have the 2 other crews, inmate crews, that will be available to the street department and to other areas of public work, I believe.
We've increased from 1 in the past to 3 full crews from the warden at Davity, so we're going to be able to react hopefully a little quicker to those situations. Rabbit runs, Mr. Marshall, I know it's been a big concern of yours. We talk about it a good bit. I received letters from you, and I appreciate that. I know it concerns you. It's a big problem, particularly in your district where there are a lot of them. I think one of the things that kind of got glossed over was the amount that blowing trash and debris and leaves into the rabbit runs causes. And everyone probably is guilty of that at some point. When I was a kid, I used to do some yards, and I can remember when the blower came, when that got popular, it was like, okay, I don't have to sweep and put it in a dustpan anymore and bag it. or blow it in the street, and as long as you spread it out, you figure, you know, out of sight, out of mind. The problem is it's not out of sight and out of mind. That dirt accumulates and the debris gets picked up. In your district particularly, it ends up in the rabbit runs. And if you go to Charles Park or any other place in this city, you will see people blowing their debris directly in the storm drains and directly into places where they won't. I can look around and see people smile in this room, and they know they're doing it too, because it's just a problem.
Not any of my constituents.
Not any of it. So
they don't do that kind of stuff, do y'all?
Everybody's doing it. And it's a problem, and it's also, it's a violation of law to put it in storm drains. That can be kind of serious. So those are things we need to address. But I know it's a particular problem in your district because of the amount of rabbit runs, and you showed me that one day. We drove through and looked at that. It's a big cost to fix them.
Yeah, and talking about replacing them that's astronomical. So, but I appreciate your input and all the help and whatever we can do, we're gonna support you on that.
I just want to mention this, since Miss Mary Lawson has come aboard, I am supervisor with the street department, and Miss Teresa and Mr. Rick Thompson is our assistant public director. I want to let the council administration know they have been working very well. We get an awful lot of calls, and in the last 2 years, we have been doing a great job with them helping me make things happen, because I love sending them up here to come see y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6, I'm gonna have to forego until the next council meeting. That was here from the administration concerning folks and applications.
Oh, okay.
We'll discuss all of that on the next council meeting. Anything else before public safety and state? Meeting adjourned.